All right, and just like that, I'm back. It's your girl, Amasia Star. I'm here broadcasting live in California. Wow, but I have a treat for you guys today. Today, we're doing the third day on siblings. Oh my goodness, the benefits of siblings. So, I wanted to pay special mention to age gaps. So, today, it's going to be sibling age gaps, the science of birth spacing, and family dynamics. Okay? So a lot of times we pay attention to siblings and the benefits and even the rivalries, but we never really get into the intricacies of space gaps as it pertains to raising children with different age gaps. Okay, so ever wonder how siblings age gaps affect psychology, relationships, and family dynamics in a whole? Well, in this video, we're going to break it all the way down. We're going to go from moderate, which is like 1 to 2 years, small, which is 1 to 2 years, moderate, which is say 3 to 4 years, and then of course large gaps. Okay, like it was in my family. We had a large gap between my oldest sister, Dr. Terry, and my little baby sister, Tracy. They have 10 years between them. So we're going to get into a little bit. I'll be bringing a little bit of my personal experience as I trickle along and give you guys some much needed science-backed facts, statistics, and of course quotes. All right. So without further ado, oh, and just in case you're wondering, got these wonderful, wonderful roses and flowers from my wonderful brother. Thank you so much. They are absolutely amazing. Why? Because my birthday is tomorrow. Yes. Right? Oh, how sweet and wonderful. Anyway, very, very stoked about that. So this will be right here in the background to just remind me how loved I am. And my brother is just fantastic. He's been married to my sister like forever. And it shows because he treats us sisters, which of course is sisters by marriage, but still, nevertheless, he gives us all the love and he treats us just as amazing and magnetic as he treats my sister, who is his wife. So shout out to my big bro, Dwight. Thank you so much. You're amazing. All right, so let's go and get right into it. Run a second mark. We ready, right? In the blocks? Set. Let's go. All right. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. So let's start from the beginning. Okay, here we go. I got so many great things. I had to take notes. Close age gaps, which would be considered like less than 2 years, all right? Biological factors, shorter birth intervals can be more physically demanding on the mom, okay, potentially leading to a higher risk of complications such as preterm birth or even lower birth weight, all right? Psychological impact. Children close in age may have a stronger bond due to shared developmental stages and interests and peer groups. Social factors. Sibling rivalry can be intense since both children compete for attention at the exact same time. All right, these are some of the pros and cons. Parental challenges. Parents may find it harder to meet both children's needs simultaneously. So that's one of the drawbacks of having children that are closer in age. Lending to stress, but also more efficient parenting as both children go through similar stages together. Let's run on over to moderate age gaps, which would be considered between 2 and 4 age years difference. All right. Biological factors would include this gap allows mothers' body more time to recover from the very first child that they had, and reducing the risk associated with closely spaced pregnancies. Okay. Now, psychological impact of this, the older child has some independence, but is still young enough to develop a close bond with the younger sibling, which is very important when you're raising children. You want to have that kind of that built-in friendship if you can. Social factors. There may still be sibling rivalry, but it's typically less intense than in very, very, very close age gaps. So it still might be some there, but imagine a child that's 8 versus a child that's 4, that 4 year, okay? You can kind of get where we're going with this. Now, last but not least, let's go ahead and jump into the large age gap, which would be 5+ years. So biological factors with this is mothers have had time to recover fully, reducing any type of health risks associated with the previous pregnancy. But fertility may decline with age, depending on what her age is at the time of the first child versus the second child. The psychological impact, the older sibling is often more mature, and may take on a protective or even a mentoring role, all right? So like in the case of my my niece and her little sister, okay? my beautiful Trailing. So when it comes to their dynamic, she's 17 and my niece is 6. So they have that 11-year difference in between. So she is at this stage, can drive. She can drive her to some of her swim practices and different things like that. And also, they just have more of a nurturing role. My niece, Denise, plays a more nurturing role when it comes to her little sister, Trailing. So that's always a win. And she can help out a lot with some of the similar chores, getting dinner ready on the table for her mom, helping out, being able to do the dishes, wash her little sister's clothes. So you can see that when you have a larger gap, it takes on a different type of role. I know in my home growing up, my big sister, Dr. Terry, she did everything. Like, she could cook by the time she was 8. She was fantastic. Yes, Terry the Great. And for myself and my younger sibling, which is we're 1 year apart, we were able to, she was like our second mother. So she balanced the checkbook. She was able to go grocery shopping. She could drive at a very young age, 14. She was able to wash our clothes, separate them, put them up, help with our homework. She was just like her, second mother. Yeah, second mother. All right. So let's get into a little bit more. So when we have the social factors, there's typically a less direct competition. Clearly, my big sister was not competing with us. But the siblings may have a few shared interests. Actually, typically, we were blessed. We had a lot of shared interests, but I could see how that could be different for other families, right? We were huge on track and field and sports. So our big sister took us to track practice, shopped for our spikes, made sure we had everything that we needed. And yeah, she was also right there at the finish line, cheering us on. So kudos to my family dynamic. So blessed. Now let's talk about, for a second, only child syndrome. And the psychological impact, it tends to be more independent, self-sufficient, and often develop strong bonds with adults. So I've seen this a lot in some of my friends who are only children. They're more mature in a lot of ways, right? Because they don't have that little child to kind of play with them, to keep them in a more childlike nature. Instead, they tend to kind of, unfortunately, grow up a little too fast. Yeah, this is true. One of the social factors for this dynamic is that they may lack the immediate companionship of a sibling, but often form close friendships outside of the family. And to get over into the parental challenges, parents focus all their attention usually on one child because they only got one, okay? Which can be beneficial, but may also lead to increased pressure and expectations. They got too much attention. They're like, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do this, and you need to do that. Because there's a huge gap between my young niece and my sister and her sister who is 11 years older than her. I could definitely say that from my viewpoint, she definitely has had a lot of pressure on her because for a long time she was just a single child. And now, of course, now she has a little sister, and now she is more of a mentor, more of a leader for her little sister. For Jackson and Bear, they are just a couple of years apart. Those are my nephews. And I can definitely say that they are able to have kind of like a built-in friendship, but because they have the 2 to 4 year, it's not so much competition as the younger Bear gets a lot more of that coddling, right? That Jackson is already like, I did that already, I'm over it, I've moved on, I want to play with my cards, you know? So, and then you have my, let me see, gosh, I'm trying to go through the different age brackets. So my sister's kids, Sharice's kids, and my brother Dwight. So there has various. They have Andre, the firstborn son, to my niece Michelle. That's a little bit of a gap, right at the end of the 4-year mark. So they did not have to really compete for attention from their parents, from my sister and brother. But I could definitely see him taking on a much more protective role at even a young age, as he was very protective over my niece Shelly, which was super cool and super beautiful to see. Now from Shelly to Kayla, they are very close in age, just a couple of years at the most. And they have a very close bond, but it definitely was a little bit of that competition for the baby child wanted to, make her voice known and make her mark on life. And then you got the middle child, which was Shelly, who was, kind of independent, but still kind of like wanted to still be included and be seen as special, right? So we have my older sister's nieces and nephew. So we have the oldest, which was my nephew Terry. Phenomenal, very mature. He hung out with us because for a long time he was the only like my mother would say, the only grandchild for so many years. He got a lot of adult attention. And being that only child at that time, he just grew up to be fantastic. He got a lot of us in him. And his maturity and his leadership shows. And then here comes along my beautiful goddaughter, Star. And she is the second oldest for our next gen. Very mature, very mature. But as a child, she's very easily to cry. Gorgeous to look at. And my goodness, she definitely has a little bit of that middle child syndrome, because then right after her came one of my youngest nephews at that time, which was Cecil Joseph Kidd III. And may he rest in peace, but he was absolutely fantastic. A super genius of a child. And I just want to give you guys a little background on some of my family's dynamics and how the spacing worked in up close and personal, where I could actually give you some hands-on experience from watching them and raising them. And so Cecil, being the baby of the first set of the oldest, from my oldest sister, he was just, he got everything. You know, he wasn't spoiled, but he definitely had an advantage. Definitely in school. He learned everything a lot faster because he had his older siblings, which was able to pass that knowledge to him really quick. He sucked it up like a sponge. And of course he had me, you know, part of the queens. So, you know, to pour into him and to help guide him and just to try to make sure that he had an easier role in life. So there's some perks to being the baby child on different sets. I've given you examples. Yeah, definitely. All right, so there you have it for that part. Let's move on to the next part, okay? Stay tuned. I wanted to say one thing. There's no perfect age gap. Each has its own advantages and is definitely its disadvantages and challenges. The best approach depends on factors like practicality, parental capacity, family dynamics, definitely the individual's child's temperament, their personality. Gotta just, like, being a parent, you just gotta pay attention. And when you're a sibling, you definitely have a different type of seat than your parents do. So keep that in mind. You might be wanting to run over there to your mother or your father and say, she's doing this, and be the snitch of the siblings. She's doing that. You have a different point of view than your parents do. So it's not like your parents don't see it or care. It's just that, like I said, you got a different viewpoint. You're up close and personal. You're also seeing everything from a child's view, where parents see everything from a parental state of mind. All right, keep that in mind. All right, so, it's so many good stuff. One of the things that I wanted to add into this particular special meaning when we're doing the siblings, I come from a very close-knit family, and I understand that everyone else out there doesn't, and I definitely want to make sure that I have room to acknowledge that and understand that. I also want to say that having siblings is definitely a blessing, and it doesn't matter if your siblings are by birth, like your bloodline, or if it's adopted siblings. Shout out to my wonderful children that I was this close to adopting, Ariana and Isaiah. Wherever you are in life, I know you're doing very well. And I'd also have to add, of course, my son, who's not my birth son, but he is definitely my son in spirit, and that would be Dorian. I also want to move on to how my mother, she has such a huge capacity for love, right? So she had some spiritually adopted children. So shout out to my cousins, who are also my siblings, which would be Tammy, which would be Theodore, which would be Marquise. I always say Marquise, but it's Marquise. What a beautiful name. And they grew up, and rest in peace to their brother Leroy. They grew up in the household with us and was raised, might as well say, like our siblings, okay? And shout out to other siblings that my mother spiritually adopted, which my best friend, Marie, thank you, love you, Tylese. And also my mother had some other children, which was Kim, shout out to Lori, we love you so very much. Hope you're having a fantastic day as well. And then, of course, later in life, she adopted Sabrina. So shout out to you, Sabrina, which we call fifth daughter. All right, so like I said, these different dynamics and these different age gaps, it doesn't have to be a biological siblings. It can also be adopted siblings or spiritual siblings. Okay, keep that in mind. It's all love. It's all love. It's all love. So did you know that the age gap between siblings can impact their intelligence? I'm gonna give you a keen insight. So there's a small age gap between my sister and my little sister, myself and my little sister. And when I learned my multiplication tables, which was at the tender age of very young, 7, I believe I started learning my multiplication tables. So my sister was able to learn them at 6. So we were given this beautiful like eating mat, and my mother, it had my name, Elizabeth, and it had the multiplication factors on there. And so every time I ate, I'd be looking at them, staring at them, and I'd be memorizing them. And when I completed them, I passed that mat on to my little sister, and so she was able to learn it as well at the same time. So I was 7, she was 6, and we went to a very advanced elementary school. So yeah, shout out to learning right there, Carson, California. At the time, we were elite. All right, so just keep that in mind. So it can impact your intelligence, your personality, even your future successes. Like my little sister having been cultivated by my big sister, which is an 11-year difference. She also was very mature for a very young age. She knew what she wanted to be in life at 11 years old. She knew she wanted to be an engineer. And yeah, she's an engineer. Do you know what I'm saying? Very young age, 10 years old, when I learned how to break dance a little Coco in Carson, California, I also knew what I wanted to be. I knew I wanted to be an entertainer. And I entertain, right? Y'all haven't went and got my music. Y'all better get it together. Go to AMAJASTARR, or you can also look in the description of any one of my videos, and there's a link to go buy my song, and it's available on all platforms. You can buy it straight off of Spotify, but you can buy it anywhere. Do.